My name is Kristina Horner. You probably already knew that, so let's back up a little bit and talk about some things you might not already know for this whole draw my life thing. I was supposed to be born on Christmas Day, which is why my parents named me Kristina. I was a couple of days late, but the name stuck anyway, and I entered the world on December 27th, 1987, in Bismarck, North Dakota. Shortly after I was born, my parents packed up and we left home, moving out to the East Coast where we stayed in a bunch of questionable hotels and traveled from city to city while my dad installed skylights in a lot of really important buildings. Apparently my favorite part of the day was messing up the bed moments after housekeeping had just finished cleaning our room. Typical. Eventually my dad's job brought us to Seattle, Washington, where my family permanently planted its roots. When I was 5 years old, my parents had another baby who was strangely also due on Christmas Day. My parents let me name him, though they vetoed my first suggestion of Quagmire in favor of my second one, which was Nicholas, for St. Nicholas. Get it? Christmas babies. My parents took a lot of home movies of my brother and I always insisted on being the star. Even if they were trying to capture my brother's first steps or something equally important, I always tried to jump in front of the camera to sing a solo or to tell a story. My parents knew at a very young age that I was a performer, that I loved cameras, and that I was willing to do just about anything to get people's attention. I had an extremely happy childhood. Growing up, I was pretty much always surrounded by a quintessential band of neighborhood friends, and I did really well in school, and I got to build forts and play in the woods and jump in puddles like kids are supposed to. I remember we got our first computer sometime during mid-elementary school. My parents called me in and sat me down, and once it was set up, they told me, "This is a really big moment you're going to remember for the rest of your life, Kristina. This is our new computer." I took one look at it, didn't really get it, said, "Cool," and asked if I could go read a book. I was always reading. Like, if my dad took me to a baseball game, I would just read through the entire thing. Reading is actually sort of what got me in trouble a bit as I got older, because the books I read put a lot of crazy ideas in my head about the way kids should behave. Things like messing with substitute teachers, or forming exclusive clubs, or starting your own businesses. Basically, if the Babysitter's Club or Amber Brown or Harriet the Spy did it, I did too. But it didn't always work out so well in real life. This natural desire to lead people, to arrange my friends into groups and clubs, and to orchestrate stunts and spy groups and pranks, made me kind of bossy. I never had any trouble making friends, but sometimes I had trouble keeping them. But thankfully I had my books, so I never minded too much. Then when I was in 7th grade, my Aunt Linda died of leukemia. She was a really important person in my life, and this was the first time I had ever dealt with the idea of death. At 12 years old, we're already dealing with so many other difficult things just trying to grow up that I really didn't know how to handle it. It was actually during Linda's funeral that one of my other aunts, Lila, introduced me to my first Harry Potter book. I was reluctant to try it at first because I thought a book about a boy wizard sounded kind of lame, but she insisted it would help me. She was right. I can't even really explain on what scale Harry impacted my life, but the moment that book passed into my hands was the very epicenter of everything my life has become today. I was ecstatic. I'd never been more excited or inspired by a piece of art, but there just weren't enough people at my school interested in talking to me about it. That's when I finally realized what the computer and the internet could do for me. I started by reading and writing fan fiction. I also played a lot of Neopets, but fan fiction was where I began to realize that there were other people out there like me, and I started making online friends. I started writing a story with these 2 other girls I met online that was essentially an entire rewrite of the Harry Potter series from Draco's point of view, which culminated in 3 years of extensive planning and exactly 0 actual writing. I spent a huge portion of my high school years on a website called portkey.org, moderating forums and building an incredible community of people I connected with even more than most of the people I went to school with. Then, in 2002, my friend Adrian gave me a Harry and the Potter CD for my birthday. He had no idea what he was doing at the time, but this changed everything. I saw Harry and the Potters that following summer at a show they played in Seattle, and I knew I not only wanted, but needed to do it too. In 2004, I started my very own wizard rock band. The Parselmouths is honestly what introduced me to most of the people I call my friends today. It's what took me around the country on 4 national tours, and it's what brought me to YouTube. I probably don't have to explain to you what YouTube has done for my life, because it's all encapsulated here on my channel. Something that started as a weird hobby turned into a job, turned into a lifestyle. I could make a mile-long list of the amazing things it's brought me, but there are also a few shadows. In 2009, I found myself in a long-distance relationship spanning nearly 5,000 miles from his house to mine. It was fun and exciting, and I traveled a lot because of it, but wow, shocker, it didn't work out. The unfortunate part was that it came to its crashing end during my London study abroad. That was the first time I had my heart broken, and I was thousands of miles away from my friends and my family and my own bed. I was forced to figure out how to heal, how to get up in the morning, all on my own. Not easy. Instead of traveling around Europe like I'd planned to for years, I just wanted to stay in my flat and rewatch old episodes of Friends and cry. Worse yet, I spent the next month realizing that if you're sad, publicly on the internet, people will cheer you up. And while this method of healing felt great in the short term, it led to an extensive amount of oversharing I wished I could take back when it was all said and done. Especially since Alex and I grew to be really good friends again with time. But once you put something on the internet, it's there forever. Of course, I didn't learn my lesson. I went from one public long-distance relationship to another, making many of the same mistakes, forgetting to live my own life in the meantime, and getting my heart broken a second time in an even worse way. Good job, Kristina. I had a really difficult year after that. This was also around the same time I found out that the reason I was having trouble singing was because I had severe vocal nodes, which means my vocal cords were having trouble being vocal cords. They had one job. Basically, I found out that I would have to stop singing entirely if I ever wanted it to heal. I felt like I had lost a lot of things. Singing is something that makes me so happy, and not being able to do it just feels so stupidly unfair. I felt like I lost a huge part of myself, like I'd lost my purpose. On top of that, I felt like I lost my privacy as well, because many people, strangers, thought it was okay to bombard me with questions about my voice and about my relationships. I got emails straight to my inbox demanding I tell them what happened with so-and-so and when I would sing again. I didn't know how to get away from it. I took a very large break from dating, and even making YouTube videos made me feel kind of uncomfortable because it felt like I was personally inviting the questions in. I spent most of 2011 trying to figure out how to reinvent myself online, as more than a Harry Potter musician and as more than the ex-girlfriend of popular internet personalities. I was also trying to reinvent myself in real life as well because I had kind of stopped trusting other people. I didn't want to live my life that way, but I really had no idea what to do at that point. My web series Job Hunters had a lot to do with why things have turned around for me. Not only was I able to really throw myself into something I cared about, but it was nearby. That was so important. It was a project in my own city with my own friends, and it didn't require a plane ride to get to it. It was really good for me, not only because I got to distract myself from the singing thing by focusing on writing, producing, and acting, but it also showed me that we're worth a lot more than the sum of our past, and that for every not-so-great person out there, there's a whole community of good people who want to help you succeed. I'll be honest and tell you that I struggled in my decision to make this video. I've made a lot of mistakes in the past, and part of the reason for that is because I've shared too much with the internet, so making a video this personal kind of freaks me out. I love sharing my life and my experiences with you guys, but I'm learning that it's healthy to keep some things a little more to myself. Lately, life has been good for me. It's totally cheesy, but taking all of that me time really helped. I also finally feel comfortable enough to tell you that Joe and I have been dating for nearly a year now, and while he's one of the most important things in my life, our relationship is not a defining element of this YouTube channel by any means. So that's my life. That's been my journey, and the really exciting thing is that I sort of feel like that journey is still only just beginning. Thanks for coming on the ride with me, and I hope you'll stick around to see what's next. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. If you want to see another video about childhood nostalgia and blanket fort building, you can click the video down below, or over on the left, you can check out my web series Job Hunters that turned it all around. Thanks, guys.